Our story begins not in a world of lush jungles and towering behemoths, but in a world being reborn. 214 million years ago, during the Late Triassic period, the planet was a different place. Earth's landmasses were fused into a single immense supercontinent, Pangaea. Far from the moderating influence of vast oceans, much of its interior was a harsh, semi-arid expanse, baking under a relentless sun. This was a world recovering from the most profound extinction event in its history, the Great Dying, which had wiped out over 90% of all species. Life was clawing its way back from the brink, and in the vacancies left behind, new forms were beginning to experiment, to radiate, to take hold. Among the sprawling conifers and resilient cycads, a new dynasty was quietly rising. They were small, agile, and walking in a way the world had rarely seen before, on two legs. These were the first dinosaurs, a group destined not just to survive, but to dominate. In this crucible of change, one lineage was about to take a revolutionary step, a step that would ultimately lead to the largest animals ever to walk the earth. The flora of the Triassic presented a formidable challenge. Plants were tough, fibrous, and low in nutrients. To thrive as a large herbivore in this environment required a radical new body plan. And from the evolutionary pressures of this ancient world emerged Plateosaurus. Belonging to a group known as prosauropods, or before the sauropods, it was a blueprint for future giants. Plateosaurus was unlike any major herbivore that had come before. It stood primarily on two powerful hind limbs, freeing its hands for other tasks. A remarkably long neck, flexible and muscular, supported a disproportionately small, narrow head. This arrangement allowed it to browse on vegetation at different heights, from low-lying ferns to the higher branches of conifers, giving it a distinct advantage over its shorter-necked contemporaries. It was a highly successful design, an animal perfectly tuned to its time and place. But its most intriguing feature was on its hand, a formidable, sharp claw on its first digit, a tool whose purpose would puzzle scientists for centuries to come. Plateosaurus was an evolutionary pioneer, a glimpse into the future of herbivory on a colossal scale. For millions of years, the story of Plateosaurus lay locked away in stone, its existence an untold secret. The silence was finally broken, not in a remote desert, but in the heart of Europe. The year is 1834. In a clay pit near Haraldsberg, Germany, a physician and naturalist named Johann Friedrich Engelhardt stumbled upon a series of large, perplexing bones. They were unlike anything he had ever seen. The vertebrae were massive, the limb bones robust. He knew he had found the remains of a giant prehistoric reptile, but its identity was a profound mystery. 3 years later, the renowned paleontologist Hermann von Meyer formally described the creature, giving it the name Plateosaurus, meaning broad lizard, a reference to its stout bones. At the time, the very concept of dinosaurs was in its infancy. The discovery of such a large land animal from the Triassic period was revolutionary. It challenged existing ideas about prehistoric life and opened a new chapter in our understanding of the ancient world. These German quarries were the first windows into the dawn of the Age of Giants, revealing an animal that was far more than just a broad lizard. The initial bones from Haraldsberg were just the beginning of a complex paleontological puzzle. Hermann von Meyer and his contemporaries faced the daunting task of reconstructing an animal no human had ever seen, from incomplete fossils. How did it stand? How did it move? Early reconstructions depicted Plateosaurus as a lumbering quadrupedal creature, sprawling like a modern lizard, a common interpretation for early dinosaurs. But as more fossils emerged, a different picture took shape. The breakthrough came from remarkable bone beds in Germany and Switzerland. These sites contained the remains of hundreds of individuals of all ages, jumbled together. These mass accumulations provided an unprecedented wealth of anatomical information. By studying the limb proportions, spine structure, and muscle attachments on a vast number of specimens, paleontologists could rebuild Plateosaurus with new confidence. The sprawling quadruped was replaced by a dynamic, primarily bipedal animal, a far more active and sophisticated creature than first imagined. The puzzle was slowly being solved, bone by fossilized bone. With a clearer picture of its anatomy, we can step back into the world Plateosaurus inhabited. The late Triassic of central Pangaea was a land of extremes. Long, arduous dry seasons would parch the landscape, turning rivers into dusty channels and forcing vegetation to retreat. These periods of scarcity were followed by dramatic monsoonal rains that would rejuvenate the land, sparking a flush of new growth. For a large herbivore like Plateosaurus, this seasonal cycle was the driving force of life. The existence of the bone beds, containing numerous individuals that perished together, has led to a compelling hypothesis: that Plateosaurus was a social animal, moving in groups or herds. It is likely that these herds were migratory, undertaking long journeys across the vast plains of Pangaea. They would have followed the rains, chasing the green flush of vegetation that was their lifeline. Such a strategy would allow them to exploit resources over a huge area, a key to their success in this challenging seasonal environment. These great treks were not just about finding food. They were a fundamental aspect of the Plateosaurus lifestyle, a rhythmic pulse of movement, dictated by the Triassic sky. To survive on a diet of tough Triassic plants, Plateosaurus evolved a specialized toolkit. Its small skull housed jaws lined with coarse, leaf-shaped teeth. These were simple pegs, suited for raking in and shredding foliage, but incapable of grinding it. The real processing likely happened internally. Like many modern birds and crocodiles, Plateosaurus probably swallowed stones, known as gastroliths. Held in a muscular gizzard, these stones would act as an internal mill, pulverizing the fibrous plant matter. But perhaps its most versatile tools were its hands. While the hind limbs provided powerful locomotion, the forelimbs were shorter, bearing 5-fingered hands. 4 fingers were for grasping, but the thumb was transformed into a surprisingly large, sharply pointed claw. Its function is a subject of debate. Was it a defensive weapon against predators like the fearsome Rauisuchians? Was it used to pull branches closer to its mouth? Or perhaps it was for contests of strength within the herd. This single feature highlights the complexity of Plateosaurus, a peaceful herbivore, yet armed and remarkably well-equipped for the challenges of its world. Plateosaurus was more than just another fossil discovery. It was a testament to a pivotal moment in the history of life. For over 15 million years, it thrived across the landscapes of Pangaea, one of the most common dinosaurs of its time. It was one of the first truly large-bodied terrestrial herbivores on the planet, reaching lengths up to 10 meters. This was a critical evolutionary achievement. By tapping into the vast, previously underexploited resource of high-growing vegetation, Plateosaurus and its prosauropod relatives paved the way for the titans to come. They were the experimental blueprint, the successful first draft for the colossal sauropods of the Jurassic, like Brachiosaurus and Diplodocus. Their long necks, herbivorous diet, and immense size all began here in the Triassic. The bones discovered in a German quarry opened a window into this crucial transition, revealing the dawn of a new ecological strategy. Plateosaurus stands as a pioneer, an evolutionary trailblazer that represents not the culmination of a lineage, but the very beginning. It is the true dawn of the giants, the first great stride in the dinosaurs' long and spectacular march toward gigantism. To understand the rise of the dinosaurs, we must first understand their blueprint. And for the giant sauropods that would one day dominate the Mesozoic, that blueprint was Plateosaurus. This creature was an anatomical revolution in the late Triassic, a mosaic of features both primitive and advanced. Reaching lengths of up to 10 meters and weighing as much as 4 metric tons, it was among the first truly large terrestrial herbivores on the planet. Its body plan was a declaration of intent, a design built for bulk processing of vegetation on an unprecedented scale. Unlike the low-slung plant eaters that came before it, Plateosaurus carried its barrel-chested torso high off the ground, supported by powerful pillar-like hind limbs. Its long, muscular tail, comprising nearly half its total length, acted as a crucial counterbalance, a dynamic stabilizer for its massive frame. This was not merely a larger lizard, it was an entirely new class of animal, an evolutionary experiment in gigantism that proved astonishingly successful. Its anatomy holds the secrets to how dinosaurs began their journey towards becoming the largest land animals in Earth's history. Atop this powerful body sat a surprisingly delicate structure, the skull. The head of Plateosaurus was remarkably small in proportion to its enormous frame, a characteristic that would become a hallmark of the later sauropods. This wasn't an evolutionary oversight, it was a marvel of biological efficiency. A large, heavy head would require an immense amount of muscle to support, putting unnecessary strain on its long neck. Instead, the skull was lightweight, a simple tool designed for a single purpose, gathering food. Inside its elongated snout, the jaws were lined with coarse, leaf-shaped teeth, perfect for slicing and stripping vegetation from branches. Unlike many other herbivores, Plateosaurus did not chew its food extensively. There is evidence of an inset tooth row, suggesting the presence of fleshy cheeks, which would have helped keep food from spilling out as it was processed. The jaw joint was simple, allowing for a basic up and down motion. Food was cropped, swallowed, and then broken down in a massive gizzard-like digestive tract, a fermentation tank that did the heavy work the jaws were not built for. This small head, big gut strategy was the key to its success. Connecting the small head to the robust body was one of the most defining features of Plateosaurus, its long, muscular neck. Composed of 10 cervical vertebrae, it was both strong and highly flexible, typically held in a gentle S-shaped curve. This anatomical marvel was far more than a simple stalk. It was a sophisticated feeding apparatus. The neck dramatically increased the animal's feeding envelope, the total volume of space from which it could gather food without moving its entire body. It could graze on low-lying ferns, browse on medium-height cycads, and even reach high into the sparse canopy of coniferous trees, a feat impossible for most of its contemporaries. This vertical reach gave it a significant competitive advantage, allowing it to exploit food resources that were completely out of reach for other herbivores. Powerful ligaments and muscles anchored to its strong shoulder girdle would have provided the strength and fine control needed to maneuver the head with precision. This long neck was a pivotal adaptation, a prototype for the even more extreme neck lengths that would evolve in its Jurassic descendants like Brachiosaurus and Diplodocus. While the hind limbs provided power and support, the forelimbs of Plateosaurus reveal a different story of adaptation and versatility. They were significantly shorter than the hind limbs, but were powerfully built, equipped with a surprisingly complex hand. Each hand possessed 5 distinct digits, a primitive trait that was put to specialized use. The first 3 fingers were strong and tipped with formidable claws, while the outer 2 were smaller and likely more flexible. The most striking feature was the thumb, or digit 1, which sported a very large, sharp, and curved claw. The exact purpose of this impressive weapon is a subject of debate. It may have been used for defense, a formidable deterrent against Triassic predators like Prosauropod. Alternatively, it could have been a tool, used to hook and pull down high branches, bringing food within reach. Some paleontologists even suggest it could have been used in contests between rival Plateosaurus. The wrist was also highly mobile, allowing the hands to grasp and manipulate objects with a degree of dexterity not seen in its quadrupedal ancestors, a clear departure from simply walking on them. For over a century, the very posture of Plateosaurus has fueled one of paleontology's most enduring debates. Did it walk on 2 legs or 4? The evidence for a bipedal stance is compelling and rooted deep in its skeletal structure. The hind limbs were long, straight, and positioned directly beneath the body, bearing the vast majority of the animal's weight. The massive hip structure and powerful leg muscles are indicative of an animal built for walking on 2 legs. Crucially, the tail was heavy and muscular, held rigidly off the ground to act as a perfect counterbalance to the front half of the body. But perhaps the most convincing evidence lies in the forelimbs themselves. The bones of the forearm, the radius, and ulna were constructed in such a way that the hands could not be rotated to face palm down. This is a condition known as obligate supination. To walk on all 4s, Plateosaurus would have had to place its weight on the sides of its hands in an awkward, inefficient posture. For a multi-ton animal, this seems biomechanically untenable for regular locomotion, strongly suggesting its primary mode of movement was on 2 feet. However, the case is not entirely closed. While habitual quadrupedal walking seems unlikely, some researchers propose a more nuanced view, that Plateosaurus was a facultative biped. This means it was primarily bipedal, but could adopt a 4-legged posture under certain circumstances. Perhaps it crouched on all 4s to rest, or used its powerful forelimbs to help push itself up from a lying position. Fossil trackways, which provide direct evidence of locomotion, have been frustratingly ambiguous. Some tracks seem to show only hind footprints, while others are less clear, leaving room for interpretation. Another factor is growth. It's possible that young, smaller Plateosaurus, with a different center of mass, were more capable of moving on 4 limbs, transitioning to a more bipedal stance as they grew larger and their tails became more developed as a counterbalance. This isn't a simple either-or question. The anatomy of Plateosaurus might reflect an evolutionary transition, an animal leaving behind a 4-legged ancestry, but not yet fully committed to the exclusively 2-legged stance of some later dinosaurs. It was a creature navigating the boundary between 2 worlds. The anatomy of Plateosaurus is a portrait of successful adaptation. Its small, efficient head and long, flexible neck allowed it to harvest vast quantities of vegetation. Its robust torso housed an immense digestive system to process that tough plant matter. Its powerful hind limbs carried its great bulk across the Triassic landscape, and its versatile, clawed hands provided effective tools for feeding and defense. The debate over its stance, whether bipedal or facultatively so, highlights its pivotal position in dinosaur evolution, a bridge between older forms and the titans to come. This unique combination of features was more than just a successful body plan. It was the foundation upon which the sauropod dynasty was built. In every bone of Plateosaurus, from the tip of its snout to the end of its tail, we see the engineering of a new kind of giant. It was the dawn of an era, a biological proof of concept that demonstrated how to grow large and thrive, setting the stage for the 150-million-year reign of the long-necked giants. To become a giant, an animal needs fuel. Vast, immense quantities of it, consumed relentlessly. For Plateosaurus, one of the first vertebrates to achieve such monumental size on land, this was the central challenge of its existence. In the flourishing ecosystems of the Late Triassic, a new world of vegetation was emerging, a green bounty ripe for the taking. But unlocking the energy trapped within these tough, fibrous plants was a formidable biological puzzle. This was a time before endless grasslands and soft flowering plants. The dominant flora consisted of rugged conifers, resilient cycads, and hardy ferns, plants armed with formidable defenses like thick cuticles, woody stems, and complex chemical compounds. To power its revolutionary body plan, Plateosaurus had to evolve an equally revolutionary engine. It needed a system not just for eating, but for systematically deconstructing and processing this challenging food source on an industrial scale. The story of its success is not one of brute force, but of ingenious biological engineering. A plant-powered engine that would set the stage for the even larger giants to come, rewriting the rules of life on Earth. The investigation into this prehistoric engine begins with the head. Surprisingly, for an animal of its bulk, the skull of Plateosaurus is relatively small and delicate. It's a structure built for reach and precision, not for power. The long, narrow snout could probe deep into thickets of vegetation, selectively plucking nutritious leaves or shoots. Its jaw mechanics were equally specialized. Unlike mammals, which possess complex muscles for grinding and chewing, the jaw of Plateosaurus was a much simpler affair. The jaw joint was positioned slightly below the level of the tooth row, creating a simple hinge-like motion. When the jaw closed, the teeth of the upper and lower jaws came together in a parallel, shearing action, much like a pair of garden shears. There was no side-to-side grinding motion. This anatomical arrangement reveals a crucial aspect of its feeding strategy. The mouth was a gathering tool, designed to rapidly crop and slice vegetation, which was then swallowed with minimal processing. The real work of digestion would have to happen elsewhere. A closer look at the teeth reveals the elegant efficiency of this design. They were not the flat, grinding molars of a cow, nor the sharp daggers of a carnivore. Instead, each tooth was leaf-shaped or lanceolate and flattened from side to side. Crucially, both the front and back edges were lined with coarse serrations. These tiny, sharp ridges transformed each tooth into a miniature saw blade. As the jaw closed, these dozens of serrated edges worked in unison to slice cleanly through tough plant fibers. Wear patterns on fossilized teeth confirm this scissor-like action. This dental toolkit was perfectly suited for a diet of plants like cycads and the conifer relative Voltsia. Like many reptiles, Plateosaurus constantly replaced its teeth throughout its life. As one tooth became worn down from slicing through abrasive vegetation, another was already growing beneath it, ready to erupt and take its place. This ensured that the animal always maintained a sharp, fully functional set of tools for its relentless harvesting, a conveyor belt of dental efficiency that kept the engine fueled. This method of rapid cropping and swallowing, however, presented a significant physiological problem. The food entering the digestive system was not a well-chewed cud, but a coarse, poorly processed mass of tough plant matter. Cellulose, the primary structural component of plants, is incredibly difficult to digest. Without the initial mechanical breakdown provided by extensive chewing, unlocking its stored energy would be nearly impossible. A stomach filled with large, intact chunks of fern and cycad would be an indigestible logjam. For a creature with the immense metabolic demands of a growing giant, this inefficiency could be a fatal flaw. How did Plateosaurus overcome this critical hurdle? The small head and simple teeth were only the first stage of a far more complex system. The secret to its digestive power lay hidden deep within its enormous barrel-shaped torso, a biological processing plant that compensated for the limitations of its mouth and turned a potential weakness into an evolutionary triumph. The solution was both simple and ingenious. Stones. Paleontologists have found clusters of smooth, polished stones within the fossilized rib cages of prosauropods, right where the stomach would have been. These are gastroliths, or stomach stones. Plateosaurus would have deliberately sought out and swallowed these rocks, collecting them in a muscular, gizzard-like organ within its digestive tract. This was its internal mill. As the powerful stomach muscles contracted, they churned these stones against one another, grinding the ingested plant matter into a thick, digestible pulp. The coarse chopping of the teeth was just the first step. The gastroliths performed the heavy-duty mechanical processing that the mouth could not. The size and texture of these stones were likely important. Plateosaurus probably selected rocks of a specific size and shape from riverbeds or shorelines, replacing them as they became worn down and smooth over time. This behavior, still seen today in birds and crocodiles, was a key innovation that allowed Plateosaurus to efficiently pulverize its food and extract every possible calorie. With the plant matter pulverized into a slurry by the gastroliths, the final stage of digestion could begin. The massive barrel-chested torso of Plateosaurus was not a sign of fat, but a necessity to house an extraordinarily long and complex digestive tract. This enormous gut was, in essence, a vast fermentation vat. Inside, a teeming ecosystem of symbiotic microbes, bacteria, and other microorganisms went to work. They did what the dinosaur's own body could not. They broke down the resilient cellulose molecules. This process of fermentation slowly released the immense store of energy locked within the plant cell walls. It was a slow, methodical process, requiring the food to remain in the gut for an extended period. This is why Plateosaurus needed such a voluminous torso. It was a biological reactor that had to be large enough to process food in batches. This system of foregut fermentation was incredibly effective. It allowed Plateosaurus to thrive on a diet of tough, low-quality vegetation, providing the colossal energy surplus required to fuel its growth, sustain its active lifestyle, and ultimately achieve its groundbreaking size. This complete feeding strategy, a precise harvesting tool in the head, a stone mill in the stomach, and a fermentation tank in the gut, was the engine that powered the dawn of the giants. By outsourcing the most difficult parts of digestion to stones and microbes, Plateosaurus freed itself from the constraints of a large, heavy head packed with complex chewing muscles. This allowed for the evolution of a long, lightweight neck, giving it unparalleled reach to browse vegetation that smaller herbivores could not access. This elegant system was a blueprint for gigantism. It was so successful that it would be refined and scaled up by the colossal sauropods of the Jurassic, who took this body plan to its absolute extreme. The legacy of Plateosaurus is written in its bones and in the stones it swallowed. It was a pioneer that didn't just eat plants. It re-engineered what it meant to be a herbivore, paving the way for a 100-million-year reign of the largest animals ever to walk the Earth. In the heart of the Late Triassic, some 210 million years ago, a new life stirs. The world it enters is a harsh one, a landscape of semi-arid plains punctuated by seasonal rains. Here, nestled in a shallow scrape of earth, lies a clutch of leathery eggs. From one, a tiny creature breaks free. This is a Plateosaurus hatchling, no larger than a modern lizard, its enormous eyes taking in a world of giants and peril. Its survival is anything but guaranteed. From the moment it draws its first breath, it is vulnerable. The shell that protected it is gone, and the relative safety of the nest is fleeting. The air is filled with the calls of unseen animals, and the ground itself trembles with the footfalls of creatures that dwarf this fragile newcomer. Its journey begins not with a roar, but with a silent, desperate instinct: to eat, to grow, and to survive the countless dangers that await in this ancient world. It is a gamble played out by millions, a crucial first step on the path to becoming one of the first true giants to walk the Earth. Growth is the hatchling's first and most critical imperative. To survive, it must become large, and quickly. For the young Plateosaurus, life is a relentless search for food. Moving swiftly on two legs, they dart through the undergrowth of ferns and horsetails, their small heads constantly searching for tender shoots. This early stage is a sprint, an evolutionary race against predation. Fossil discoveries of juvenile bones reveal a remarkable story written in their very structure. Microscopic analysis of these bones shows evidence of exceptionally rapid growth, more akin to that of modern birds than to typical reptiles. This explosive development was its greatest defense. Every mouthful of vegetation fueled a metabolic engine running at full throttle, adding precious size and strength each day. But the Triassic world is unforgiving. Small, agile predators like Coelophysis are a constant threat, their sharp eyes ever watchful for a moment of weakness. For the young dinosaur, safety lies in speed, alertness, and the promise of a size that would soon put it beyond the reach of most hunters. How do we piece together this intimate story of life and death from a distance of over 200 million years? The answers lie buried in the rock, in extraordinary sites known as bonebeds. In locations across modern-day Germany, Switzerland, and France, paleontologists have unearthed vast quarries containing the remains of not one, but hundreds of Plateosaurus. These are not scattered, isolated finds. They are dense, tangled accumulations of skeletons, a snapshot of a prehistoric catastrophe. Imagine a river of bones, individuals of all different ages and sizes jumbled together. These mass graves are our most powerful window into the world of Plateosaurus. They provide an unprecedented sample size, allowing us to study how these animals grew, the variation between individuals, and, perhaps most importantly, they offer compelling evidence for a behavior that would define their descendants. Plateosaurus did not live alone. These silent stone graveyards are the strongest clue that these pioneering giants were profoundly social animals. The bonebeds whisper a tale of community. They suggest that Plateosaurus congregated in large groups, an ancient echo of the great herds of herbivores we see today. Why? The reasons were likely as fundamental then as they are now. There is safety in numbers. A lone Plateosaurus would be an easy target, but a herd with hundreds of eyes and ears on alert presents a formidable challenge to any predator. A collective defense, a confusion of moving bodies, could deter even the most determined hunter. Herding also offers efficiency. Together, they could more effectively locate scarce resources, tracking the seasonal flush of vegetation across the vast Triassic plains. Visualizing this scene is to witness the dawn of a new dynasty. We see them on the move, a flowing river of life. While they likely spent time on all fours, browsing on low-growing plants, they could rise up and run on two powerful hind legs, their long necks held high. This adaptability in movement, this facultative bipedalism, gave them a versatile edge in their environment, allowing them to both feed efficiently and move with surprising speed when necessary. Life for a Plateosaurus herd was a journey dictated by the rhythm of a volatile climate. The Late Triassic was a world of extremes, dominated by long, punishing dry seasons where the sun baked the earth and plants withered into dust. Water sources would shrink and disappear, turning fertile plains into barren wastelands. For these large herbivores, survival meant being constantly on the move, undertaking great migrations in pursuit of life-giving rain and the fresh growth it would bring. This seasonal struggle is a leading hypothesis for the very existence of the bonebeds that tell us so much. A herd, weakened by drought and clustered around a dwindling waterhole, could have been trapped and buried by a sudden violent flash flood during the first rains. Or perhaps they succumbed to thirst and starvation, their bodies left on the cracked earth to be covered by wind-blown sand over millennia. These mass graves are not just evidence of social behavior, they are stark reminders of the precarious balance between life and death, and the immense environmental pressures that shaped the evolution of these magnificent animals. After years of navigating these seasonal perils, our Plateosaurus is nearing its full stature. It has transformed from a fragile hatchling into a formidable subadult, stretching towards its maximum length of 10 meters and weighing several tons. It is now one of the largest animals in its ecosystem, a living mountain of muscle and bone. Its anatomy is a masterpiece of early sauropodomorph engineering. The once short neck has elongated dramatically, allowing it to reach high into the branches of conifers and cycads, accessing a food source unavailable to smaller herbivores. Its skull, surprisingly small for its body, is equipped with simple, leaf-shaped teeth, perfect not for chewing, but for efficiently stripping foliage. And then there is its hand, bearing a surprisingly large and sharp claw on its first digit. For decades, the purpose of this thumb claw was a mystery. It was likely a multi-purpose tool, a formidable weapon for defense against predators, but also potentially used to hook and pull down high branches, bringing food within reach of its jaws. This combination of size, reach, and specialized tools made the adult Plateosaurus a highly successful and dominant herbivore. The story of Plateosaurus is more than the life of a single dinosaur. It is the prologue to an epic. As one of the first truly large terrestrial herbivores, it represents a pivotal moment in Earth's history. It was a biological experiment in gigantism, a blueprint that nature would refine and expand upon with breathtaking results. Its success, its ability to thrive and dominate the Triassic landscape, laid the evolutionary groundwork for the titans to come. In its long neck, columnar legs, and bulk-feeding strategy, we see the nascent features of the colossal sauropods that would define the Jurassic period, creatures like Diplodocus and Brachiosaurus. Plateosaurus was the pioneer. Its journey from a tiny, vulnerable hatchling to a member of a vast, migrating herd was a triumph of adaptation. It demonstrated the profound advantages of social living and great size. Its fossils do not just tell us about a single species, they chronicle the very dawn of the Age of Giants, a legacy written in bone and etched into the future of an entire planet. The reign of the dinosaurs began here. The world of the Late Triassic was a vibrant, green expanse, a stage set for a revolutionary new act in the drama of life. For Plateosaurus, this world offered an unprecedented bounty of vegetation, fueling its growth and its expansion across the continent of Pangaea. But this verdant paradise was not without its shadows. Every evolutionary step forward by herbivores is inevitably matched by a counterstep from carnivores. The rise of these large plant-eating herds created a new mobile food source, an opportunity that the planet's predators were quick to exploit. However, the rulers of this predatory realm were not yet the theropod dinosaurs that would dominate later eras. In this time, a different, more ancient lineage of archosaur held the throne. They were swift, powerful, and built for the hunt. For a young Plateosaurus, every rustle in the undergrowth, every shadow moving against the tree line, was a potential notice that it was being watched by the silent, efficient killers of the Triassic. They were the Rauisuchians, a formidable group of reptiles closely related to modern crocodiles, but with a terrifyingly different design. Unlike their sprawling cousins, Rauisuchians possessed a pillar-erect limb posture, with legs positioned directly beneath the body. This allowed for efficient, sustained movement, making them far more agile and deadly on land. One of the largest and most fearsome was Saurosuchus, a predator stretching over 7 meters long. Its most imposing feature was its massive, deep skull, filled with long, serrated teeth designed for slicing through flesh and bone. This was not a creature of stealthy subtlety alone. It was a walking fortress of muscle and jaws, the undisputed apex predator of its environment. When a Saurosuchus patrolled its territory, it did so with the confidence of an animal that had no natural enemies. Its presence was enough to send a ripple of fear through the landscape, a clear signal that the top of the food chain was occupied by a true monster. The hunting strategy of a Rauisuchian was a masterful blend of power and patience. Its keen sense of smell, inherited from its archosaurian ancestors, could detect the scent of a herd from a great distance, allowing it to track its potential quarry. Once a herd of Plateosaurus was located, the predator would employ camouflage and cover, using the dense Triassic foliage to conceal its approach. It would move with a deliberate, silent gait, its eyes fixed on the group, assessing each individual. A predator of this size understands energy conservation. A full-on chase against a healthy adult is a risky expenditure. Instead, it looks for an advantage. It seeks out the young, the old, or an individual that has become separated from the safety of the collective. The predator's goal is to close the distance undetected, to turn a slow, patient stalk into a sudden, explosive burst of speed that an isolated animal cannot react to in time. The moments before an attack are a quiet, calculated assessment of risk and reward. For Plateosaurus, the first and most crucial shield against such a threat was not a physical weapon, but a social one, the herd. Living in large groups provided a significant defensive advantage, a concept known as collective detection. A lone animal has only one pair of eyes and ears to sense danger. A herd has dozens or even hundreds. While some members of the group are focused on feeding, their heads lowered to the vegetation, others will inevitably be alert, their long necks allowing them to scan their surroundings from a higher vantage point. A sharp, guttural call from a single alert individual would be enough to ripple through the entire herd in an instant, transforming a peaceful grazing scene into a state of high alert. This communal vigilance created a formidable sensory network, a living alarm system that made it incredibly difficult for a predator like Saurosuchus to launch a successful surprise attack. To get to one Plateosaurus, a predator first had to get past the senses of all of them. But if the herd's vigilance failed and a predator got too close, an individual Plateosaurus was far from helpless. Its sheer size, weighing up to 4 tons, was a powerful deterrent in itself. A fully grown adult presented a challenging target for even the most ambitious carnivore. Its muscular tail could be used as a heavy, sweeping counterbalance or even a blunt force weapon. Its powerful hind limbs, which carried its immense weight, were also capable of delivering devastating kicks. Yet its most specialized defensive tool was located on its hands. While its other fingers were adapted for grasping or bearing weight, the first digit, the thumb, was equipped with a massive, sharp, and strongly curved claw. This was no simple remnant of a bygone ancestor. It was a highly effective weapon. Held at the ready on its flexible forelimbs, this thumb claw could be used to slash and stab at an attacker with surprising speed and force, turning the gentle herbivore into a dangerous adversary when cornered. The moment of confrontation is a dramatic display of Triassic power dynamics. A Saurosuchus, seeing a momentary lapse in the herd's attention, bursts from its cover. Panic erupts as the Plateosaurus herd scatters, but one individual, perhaps guarding a younger animal, does not flee. Instead, it turns to face the aggressor. In a remarkable display of defensive prowess, the Plateosaurus pushes up on its hind legs, rising to its full height of nearly 8 meters. This sudden increase in size is a potent intimidation tactic. Its forelimbs are now free, the formidable thumb claws extended and ready. The Saurosuchus, a creature used to inspiring terror, halts its charge. It is now confronted by a wall of muscle and a pair of sharp weapons held high above it. The hunter becomes the assessed. It snarls, gauging its opponent, weighing the potential for a meal against the certainty of a grievous injury. The air crackles with tension as 2 of the Triassic's largest inhabitants engage in a primal standoff. The standoff cannot last forever. The Saurosuchus, a highly intelligent predator, completes its calculation. The Plateosaurus is not an easy target. It is healthy, determined, and formidably armed. The risk of injury from those claws or a powerful kick is too high. A wounded predator cannot hunt, and an inability to hunt is a death sentence. With a final, frustrated hiss, the Rauisuchian breaks off the attack, turning and melting back into the shadows of the ancient forest. The Plateosaurus remains reared up for a moment longer, ensuring the threat has truly passed, before slowly returning to all fours. The herd gradually coalesces, the crisis averted. This constant life-or-death pressure exerted by predators like Saurosuchus was a critical engine of evolution. It favored larger size, stronger defenses, and more complex social behaviors in Plateosaurus. This was the Triassic arms race, a relentless cycle of adaptation and counter-adaptation that would ultimately pave the way for the even larger giants of the Jurassic, setting the stage for the dawn of the dinosaurs' true reign. The Late Triassic period, around 214 million years ago. This is not the lush jungle world often associated with dinosaurs. This is an older, harsher Earth. The continents are locked together in a single colossal landmass, Pangaea. Its sheer size creates a climate of extremes, a world dominated by a vast interior desert far from the moderating influence of the ocean. This is the stage upon which a new evolutionary drama is unfolding. Life, having weathered the devastating Permian-Triassic extinction, is diversifying with explosive creativity. In this crucible of heat and aridity, strange new forms are emerging. Among them, a group of reptiles is poised for greatness. They are the dinosaurs, and one of their earliest pioneers is about to take its first steps toward gigantism. Our journey takes us to the heart of this ancient supercontinent to explore the formidable environment that forged one of the first true giants, Plateosaurus. This is a world in transition, and to understand this animal, we must first understand the challenging landscape it called home. The engine driving this Triassic world is its climate, a system profoundly different from our own. Pangaea's geography dictates a weather pattern of unprecedented scale, the mega monsoon. For much of the year, the continental interior is relentlessly dry. The sun beats down upon a parched landscape, baking the soil and evaporating what little moisture exists. Life must be opportunistic, able to withstand long periods of drought. But this punishing dryness is not permanent. Driven by massive temperature differentials between the land and the surrounding Pangaean Ocean, the seasons change with dramatic, violent force. When the monsoon arrives, it is not with gentle spring showers, but with a deluge. Torrential rains sweep across the continent, filling the dry riverbeds or wadis with raging floodwaters. This annual cycle of extreme drought, followed by overwhelming flood, is the fundamental rhythm of Triassic life. It is a powerful selective pressure, rewarding resilience and adaptability above all else. Any creature hoping to thrive here must be able to endure both fire and flood, a challenge that shaped every aspect of their biology and behavior. In such an unforgiving environment, what could a large herbivore possibly eat? The answer lies in a flora as tough as the climate itself. The gentle flowering plants and soft grasses of later eras are absent. Instead, the landscape is dominated by botanical survivors. Conifers, with their needle-like leaves and protective cones, stand as stoic sentinels against the dryness. Benetales and cycads, resembling modern palms but unrelated, offer coarse, fibrous fronds. Ferns, particularly the hardy seed fern Dicroidium, form dense thickets in areas that can retain some moisture. These plants were not exceptionally nutritious. They were woody, tough, and often defended by resins or other unpalatable compounds. To succeed here, an herbivore needed a specialized toolkit, a way to reach foliage others could not, and a digestive system capable of breaking down this resilient vegetation. This was the botanical puzzle that Plateosaurus had to solve. Its evolutionary trajectory was inextricably linked to this sparse, challenging, and unappetizing menu. Its size, its anatomy, its very existence was a direct response to the Triassic flora. And here it is, Plateosaurus. Its name means broad lizard, but this description barely hints at the evolutionary leap it represents. Reaching lengths of up to 10 meters, or 33 feet, it was one of the first dinosaurs to achieve such a large body size. This size was not for vanity. It was a crucial adaptation. A larger gut was necessary to ferment and extract nutrients from the poor-quality plants. Its most striking feature is its remarkably long neck, which, unlike its later sauropod cousins, was surprisingly flexible. This gave it a wide feeding envelope, allowing it to browse on low-lying ferns and then rise up to reach conifer branches 10 or 15 feet high, a level inaccessible to smaller herbivores. Its hands were also remarkable. Equipped with a large, sharp thumb claw, they were not merely for walking. These were versatile tools, perhaps used to grasp branches, dig for roots or water, or serve as a formidable defense against predators. Plateosaurus was a bipedal animal, walking on two powerful hind legs, its body balanced by a long, muscular tail. This posture freed its hands and elevated its head, giving it a better vantage point in a world of constant threat. The seasonal nature of the mega monsoon likely forced Plateosaurus into a life on the move. It is improbable that any single location could have provided enough food and water to support these large animals year-round. Instead, they were likely nomads, undertaking vast seasonal migrations across the Pangaean plains. Fossil evidence supports this idea. Bone beds containing dozens, sometimes hundreds, of Plateosaurus individuals have been discovered, suggesting they congregated in large groups. These were not random assemblages. They tell a story of social animals moving together, perhaps for protection or to follow the path of the life-giving rains. We can envision great herds trekking across the arid expanses, driven by instinct and the eternal search for sustenance. The rains would trigger a flush of new plant growth, a temporary greening of the landscape. The herds would follow this fleeting abundance, grazing as they went, before the sun once again baked the earth and forced them onward. This nomadic lifestyle was a defining feature of their existence, a grand procession dictated by the Triassic climate, with the young and vulnerable sheltered within the moving forest of adult bodies. But Plateosaurus did not wander this world alone. The Triassic was an ecosystem teeming with other strange and formidable creatures. Small, agile coelophysids, early theropod dinosaurs, darted through the undergrowth, preying on insects and small reptiles. In the skies, primitive pterosaurs like Eudimorphodon, with their leathery wings, hunted along the seasonal rivers. But the true apex predators were not yet dinosaurs. This was the age of the Rauisuchians. Fearsome archosaurs like Prosauropod, a quadrupedal carnivore the size of a saltwater crocodile, patrolled these lands. With a massive skull and blade-like teeth, it was a threat to even an adult Plateosaurus. Survival in this world meant constant vigilance. The herd offered safety in numbers, a collective of eyes and ears scanning the horizon for the telltale shape of a lurking predator. An encounter would not be a dramatic chase, but a tense test of nerves. The Plateosaurus would rely on its size, its formidable thumb claw, and the intimidating presence of the herd to deter an attack. It was a delicate balance of power, a daily drama of predator and prey played out on a continental scale. The world of Plateosaurus was finite. As the Triassic drew to a close, the very forces that shaped Pangaea began to tear it apart. Volcanic activity escalated, and the climate began to shift once more, culminating in another mass extinction event that would wipe out the Rauisuchians and many other dominant groups. But for Plateosaurus and its kin, the sauropodomorphs, this was not an end, but an opportunity. They had been forged in the crucible of the Triassic. Their large body size, efficient herbivory, and social behavior proving to be a winning formula. They survived the extinction and entered a new world, the Jurassic. The blueprint developed in Plateosaurus, the long neck, the powerful digestive system, the columnar legs to support immense weight, would be refined and exaggerated, leading to the rise of the true titans. The sauropods, like Diplodocus and Brachiosaurus, would dwarf their Triassic ancestors, becoming the largest land animals the Earth has ever known. Plateosaurus was a pioneer, a crucial step in the dawn of the giants. Its story is a testament to resilience, a chronicle of life's ability to innovate and thrive in even the most challenging of worlds, laying the foundation for a dynasty that would rule the planet for over 100 million years. Our story of Plateosaurus concludes not with an ending, but with a profound beginning. As the Triassic period drew to a close, the world was on the cusp of monumental change. The supercontinent of Pangaea was beginning to fracture, and immense volcanic activity filled the skies with ash and gas, triggering one of the planet's great mass extinctions. For countless species, this was the final chapter. But for the lineage of Plateosaurus, it was a crucible. These adaptable herbivores had successfully colonized vast territories, their populations thriving on the Triassic flora. They had weathered droughts and navigated changing ecosystems. As the old world perished in fire and upheaval, the survivors faced a new Earth. The stage was being cleared of its dominant players, leaving ecological vacancies waiting to be filled. In the shadow of this global catastrophe, the evolutionary traits honed by Plateosaurus, its efficient digestion, its lengthening neck, its robust build, were not a final form, but a set of unopened instructions, a blueprint for a dynasty of titans waiting to be born. The success of the sauropods was not an accident. It was an inheritance. The key to their future dominion was encoded within the anatomy of their prosauropod ancestors, most notably Plateosaurus. Let us deconstruct this remarkable blueprint. The neck, already significantly longer than that of its contemporaries, was the foundation. It provided the reach to exploit new food sources, a simple advantage that would be scaled to astonishing proportions. Inside its large barrel-chested torso was a highly efficient digestive system, a fermenting chamber capable of breaking down the toughest plant matter. This gut was the engine that would power gigantism. Its limbs, while still capable of bipedal movement, were growing stronger and more robust, showing a clear trend towards the pillar-like legs required to support immense weight. The wrist and ankle bones were becoming more compact and block-like, better suited for bearing heavy loads than for fast running. Every bone, every sinew of Plateosaurus pointed towards a future of quadrupedal gravity defiance. It was a perfect storm of pre-adaptations, a body plan primed for scale, just waiting for the right environmental opportunity to be unleashed. With the dawn of the Jurassic period, approximately 200 million years ago, the blueprint was put into practice. From the scattered survivors of the Great Extinction, new forms began to emerge. These were the first true sauropods. Dinosaurs like Volcanodon from southern Africa and Isanosaurus from Southeast Asia represent this crucial transitional phase. They were no longer facultative bipeds like Plateosaurus. Their commitment to a four-legged stance was absolute. Their legs were now stout, columnar pillars, positioned directly beneath the body to efficiently support a growing bulk. Their necks were longer, their heads proportionally smaller, and their size, while not yet gigantic, had already surpassed their ancestors. They were living, breathing proof of concept. The architectural plan pioneered by prosauropods was being built upon, refined, and amplified. The shift to obligate quadrupedalism was the final critical step that unlocked the door to extreme size, a point of no return on the evolutionary path towards becoming the largest land animals in Earth's history. The age of giants had officially begun. This explosive growth was fueled by a changing world. The Jurassic climate was vastly different from the arid Triassic. As the continents drifted apart, new seaways formed, bringing moisture far inland. Global temperatures rose, and carbon dioxide levels were many times higher than they are today. This combination created a super greenhouse world, a paradise for plants. Vast forests of conifers, cycads, ginkgos, and colossal tree ferns spread across the landmasses, providing an almost limitless buffet for large herbivores. This botanical explosion was the opportunity the sauropod blueprint had been waiting for. With an endless supply of high-fiber food, the primary constraint on size was removed. A larger body could house a larger, more efficient gut to process this vegetation. A longer neck allowed these animals to browse at heights other herbivores couldn't reach, minimizing competition. In this Jurassic landscape, size itself became a profound evolutionary advantage, not just for feeding, but also for defense against the increasingly large predators like Allosaurus that evolved alongside them. The environment didn't just allow gigantism, it actively selected for it. Once established, the sauropod body plan proved to be one of the most successful in dinosaur history, persisting for over 140 million years and diversifying into a spectacular array of forms. This was the golden age of the sauropods. In the Morrison Formation of North America, giants like Diplodocus evolved incredibly long whip-like tails, perhaps for communication or defense, and grazed on low-lying vegetation. Alongside them, the slightly shorter-tailed Apatosaurus and the bulky Camarasaurus showcased different feeding strategies and body types. Towering above them all was the iconic Brachiosaurus, a high-browsing specialist. Unlike other sauropods, its front legs were longer than its hind legs, creating a steeply inclined back that angled its neck towards the highest tree canopies. Its giraffe-like posture allowed it to exploit a food source completely out of reach for its contemporaries. Each species was a unique variation on the ancestral theme established by Plateosaurus, a testament to the versatility and evolutionary potential of that original Triassic blueprint, adapted and refined for every available niche in the Jurassic ecosystem. The evolutionary journey that began with Plateosaurus reached its breathtaking zenith in the Cretaceous period, particularly on the southern continents of Gondwana. Here, a group known as the Titanosaurs took the sauropod blueprint and scaled it to proportions that challenge the imagination and the very laws of biomechanics. These were the heavyweights of the Mesozoic world. Patagotitan majorum, discovered in Argentina, may have weighed close to 70 tons, the equivalent of a dozen elephants. Its contemporary, Argentinosaurus, was of a similar staggering magnitude. To witness a herd of these animals would be to watch a living mountain range on the move. Their vertebrae were complex, hollowed-out structures, providing strength without prohibitive weight. Their legs were like massive flesh and bone columns engineered to support a body the size of a building. These creatures represent the absolute terrestrial limit of animal size, the ultimate expression of the evolutionary potential inherent in the long-necked, large-gutted design. They were the final and largest titans to be forged from the Plateosaurus legacy. From a modest, facultative biped in the Triassic to the colossal titans of the Cretaceous, the sauropod story is one of unparalleled evolutionary success. It is a story of adaptation, opportunity, and the enduring power of a single brilliant anatomical design. In every giant that shook the Jurassic plains, in every titanosaur that browsed the Cretaceous forests, we see the echo of Plateosaurus. It was the crucial innovator, the pioneer that laid the groundwork. Though it never saw the world its descendants would command, and its bones lay silent for 200 million years, its legacy was written across the Mesozoic era in footprints the size of craters and skeletons that rival the greatest of whales. Plateosaurus was more than just a dinosaur. It was a promise of what was to come, a key that unlocked the potential for life on land to reach its most magnificent, awe-inspiring, and gigantic scale. It was, and remains, the definitive blueprint for giants.